I'm Jess Dakotas.
And I'm Nick Koziel. Welcome to That Sounds Terrifying, the podcast where we share terrifying stories, we share listener experiences, and we visit virtually some of the most haunted places in the United States and the world. All right. Well, welcome back, everybody, to That Sounds Terrifying. I'm really excited to be back on this kind of Halloween week episode. How's everybody doing? How are you doing, Jess?
I'm doing really well. It's my birthday week.
Yay,
My
birthday
birthday
week.
it's coming up this Friday. So I'm excited. Yeah, I don't have COVID this year, knock on wood. So
Right?
it's all good.
That's always
I had
good.
it
And,
last year.
and the other exciting thing, maybe for your birthday, we have our first here. We have our first guest. So
That's right.
yeah.
Yeah. My
That
friend
might
Bill. I'm
yeah,
very excited to hear his story.
yeah, me too. Me too. He tried to tell me a little bit about it before we were recording, and I'm like, oh, let me be surprised. Let me be surprised. So
Yeah.
super excited to hear it. I actually wanted to hear it. I'm like, oh, let's listen. But we're waiting for the big reveal. So but you were mentioning something about you had an interesting weekend, Jess. So why don't you share?
I did. Yeah, so this weekend, yesterday, I went to my friend's party. It was her birthday, a lot of October birthdays. Um, and we we were watching the Bills game, which, was a little upsetting at the end there. It was not, the
Yeah,
last minute of every Bills game, I feel like I'm about to like have a heart attack. But we did
unfortunately,
not
yeah.
win. The Patriots won. Yeah, like we were right there. But anyway, so then we all just it was a bunch of people I didn't know. I went like by myself, and she recently moved back from Texas. So um I knew her parents and they were there, but I didn't know any of the other friends. And so it was like a handful of people, not many, but we put on Scream, and I was like, I can do paranormal stuff, but like I hate blood and gore, but I can deal
Mhm.
with Scream because it's kind of funny now because it's just so hokey, right? Because they made like Scary Movie after that, and so you can remember the funny stuff, so it's not as serious.
Mhm.
But anyways, this guy next to me goes, I can do like blood and guts, but I can't do paranormal. I'm too scared because my house is haunted. I was like, what? So of course I'm like, ooh, tell me more. So he was telling me like all these stories, and I'm going to see if he wants to come on the podcast, feel
That'd be
things, and
cool.
all these
Yeah.
weird things were happening to him. And now I believe it was his wife or girlfriend, but they live together. Yeah. So, anyways, I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden it'll like come up in conversation with me, as we've discussed many times before, but I did not. And somebody brought up like their horoscope or something, and they were like, I'm a Libra, I'm a this. And then like literally seven people were sitting around saying, I'm a Scorpio with a Libra rising and a Cancer moon sign. And I'm like, what is happening? I've never been to a party where like everybody knows their sun sign, moon sign, and rising sign.
Oh,
That's
geez.
like just is very strange. I was sitting there going, I don't even know my ascendant sign or anything like that. I don't know.
I didn't even know that
But it
existed.
was the
So
weirdest, coolest. Yeah, it was cool. Like I mean, it was like a bunch of like really in tune people all at like this one girl's party that I don't know. It was interesting, but I thought it was really fun. It was a cool party to be at, just like, despite the Bills losing. And
mhm.
yeah, I got to watch Scream and relive being, I don't know how old I was, maybe 11 when that came out, 10,
Yeah.
11. Just aged myself. Now you know how old I am turning.
Yes, I'm the young one in this
um
podcast. No, just kidding.
yes. Yes, you're like at least 10 years younger than me, I think.
Yes, just a baby. So
um But yeah, it was a fun weekend. How about you? Did you have a fun weekend?
Yeah, I had a fun weekend. No real like, things happened to me. So so it was a
Good.
fairly quiet weekend. So but I'm
That's good.
excited. I was looking forward to this recording, looking forward to our first guest. So there's anticipation there. So
Good. Well, yeah, I know that you were dealing with a lot last week. You said your heat broke, your dryer broke.
yeah, everything. The
You might have a
physical world was
poltergeist.
not good to us last week. So
Well, I'm glad that all that got taken care of and you're nice and warm and your clothes are dry.
yeah, we're good. We're good.
Good. Good. Without further ado, I'm going to set the story up. I'm going to give you a little background on the building and where it is in Rochester, New York. It's actually in the town of Greece. And then I'm going to give it to Bill and let him tell us what happened. So, this story takes place in a building that is at the corner of Mount Read Boulevard and Latta Road. And it was once the focal point of the Greece community known as Patty Hill, which I just sold a house near there like a couple months ago. So a little familiar. Located in the northeast section of Greece, Patty Hill was settled in the early 19th century by Irish immigrants. The pioneers developed what was basically woods and various tracts of into various tracts of orchards and farms. So they were very industrious people. And though its farmlands quickly prospered, Patty Hill's religious infrastructure was lacking. And so the community was very deeply Catholic, and they would make yearly trips to Albany on Easter to receive the sacraments until St. Patrick's Church was opened in Rochester in 1823. In time, even that weekly 9-mile journey began to wear on the Greece farmers, and they wanted a local church. And so, under the leadership of Felix McGuire, who had previously held informal services at his house, Patty Hill residents built a church in 1829 on land donated by Nicholas Reed, whom Mount Read is named for. So they named it St. Ambrose, and it was a wooden church. And that was the first rural Catholic church in New York State,
Oh
which is really
wow.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have it right here. Um, and the institution served Greece's Irish immigrants until 1860, when it was moved down the hill to make way for its replacement. And this is the church's name, Mother of Sorrows.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
There's your
So it was a
episode title.
Romanesque revival. Yeah, yeah. It was a Romanesque revival style church outfitted with corbelled brick trim, round arched stained glass windows, very pretty, very church like, and constructed over the course of several years, finally reaching completion with the addition of its tower in 1878. So she old.
Yeah.
The church's importance to the Patty Hill community in the 19th century was immeasurable, and Mother of Sorrows not only met residents' spiritual needs, but it also served political, civic, and educational functions. So it was a nice big community church. By the 1960s, the 275-seat church was serving 1,400 families. The church's small size, combined with its aging infrastructure, prompted the construction of a more suitable church. And in 1966, the new Our Mother of Sorrows Catholic Church opened at 5,000 Mount Read Boulevard, which I think it's like down the street or like right next to it. I don't know.
Mhm.
It's nearby. So, seeking to preserve the old church because it was historic at this point, the town of Greece repurposed it into a library. And in that library is where Bill's story will take place. So, Bill,
Hi
tell us your
guys, a
story.
big fan. Thank you for having me on. I'm excited to tell my story.
Awesome. Awesome.
It's my story will start when I was younger, in about the mid 70s when I was in elementary school, right across the street. I knew the building as a library where we had story hours and field trips, and later did research for our book reports and things like that. This was before the internet. So we actually had to go to the library to look up facts. Um, so I used to go to this library quite often. It was right really in my neighborhood where I grew up and right across the street from elementary school, fourth, fifth grade. I used to go and um, with a friend of mine, Gene, and we would go up and one of the second floor, I would have a cubicle and we would do homework. Now, we often would get in trouble with a librarian for giggling, making too much noise, talking, and things like that. So the librarian would always watch us like a hawk. We would be told, that you can't come in if you're going to keep talking, or you'd have to leave if you can't follow the rules for the library. And as kids, what we what we would normally do is go around until someone told us not to. We were very, very wary of getting in trouble with the librarian. And since we were on this mezzanine floor, which overlooked the first floor where the librarian's desk was, we knew when the librarian was coming because she'd be walking up a set of stairs that would come up to the mezzanine. There was one set of stairs on one side of the room, one side on the other. The mezzanine, second floor, circled the entire thing and looked down into the first floor, main floor of the library. So when the librarian would be coming, we would know because you could hear a little chirping or squeaking and feel the vibration of those stairs when the librarian was walking up. And that was our cue to be quiet, put our nose back into our books, and start doing our work. So I knew that building pretty well. We spent a lot of time. I spent a lot of time in there too, just studying and different things. So that's the part early that I wanted to talk about. My terrifying experience with this building didn't happen until I had a summer job during college, and I worked at a later shift in the evening. And one particular night, I was told that I needed to go in to this building around 6 p.m. at night, and they were decommissioning it as a library. This was in the 90s now, early 90s. Decommissioned as a library. They had opened up a new library a few miles away. All the books were gone, but they were taking and wanted me to help take the shelving down, metal shelving. Again, I was going to be working there. They told me, go ahead and head over. Here's the keys to the door. The building was vacant, had been shut down as a library, so there was nobody there. So I drove over, opened the door, went in. It was 6 o'clock in the summertime, so it was light out. I didn't really flick the lights on or anything because it was very bright in there, big windows, sunny out. So I went in and started working, went up to the mezzanine. I locked the door behind me so no one else would come in. I would be the only person in the building. And I walked up the stairs to the mezzanine where there was a mallet and there was a bunch of metal shelves that were mounted to the wall, and you had to basically bang them out of their holders and then stack the shelves. We were taking the shelves down from the walls. So I was up there doing that, not really thinking much. I'd just doing my job, making a lot of noise. And at about the same time, there were some thunderstorms approaching the area. It had gotten dark, and I heard some thunder, and well, that's lightning and things. And I thought, wow, that's a pretty bad storm outside. And since I didn't have any lights on in the church, it got kind of dark inside too. So I started feeling when I was making so much noise in the church, in the library, I started feeling kind of uneasy, like somebody was looking at me or watching me. I know I was making a lot of noise, so I just got that feeling or that sense that something was or someone was looking at me. So every once in a while, I'd look over the mezzanine at the first floor to see if maybe somebody had come in, wasn't really easy about what I was feeling. So is it possible that someone else came in? Maybe. I looked around. No, there wasn't anybody there. As I was looking around, I would start catching glimpses of things in my periphery. Kind of a shadow going this way, going that way. Keep in mind that there was a thunderstorm happening at the time, so there was lots of light dancing from lightning and thunder. It was getting pretty dark. It was an intense type thunderstorm that pretty much made everything dark outside and inside too. So I got back to banging on the shelves with a mallet and starting to take down the shelves, at the pace that I wanted to finish the job at. And I started to kind of get a feeling, the hair standing up on the back of my neck. And I started to get this feeling that something was up. It felt kind of chilled a little bit. And so I stopped kind of working because I thought, I got to kind of catch my thought process here. So I stopped making as much noise, let everything quiet down a little bit. I wasn't sure how I was feeling, a little bit uneasy about something. So as I stopped working, I started to hear a familiar sound that I heard when I was a kid, and a familiar feeling, vibrations from the stairs that come up from the first floor, main floor, to the mezzanine where I was. The same sound I used to hear of when the librarian would come up those stairs, and we would be quiet so that we wouldn't get in trouble. Little bit of a kind of a squeak sound and a vibration of someone coming up the stairs. So I thought, someone that has to be here. Someone's here. Maybe someone's here on a different crew to help me out. So I went over to those stairs, went over to the edge of the mezzanine, looked down the stairs. There was nobody on either set of stairs, on one side of the room or the other. Yet I was still feeling those vibrations and hearing the little chirp that the stairs would make, and some railings were rubbing together or something. I was still feeling that. And I was like, this isn't right. I stopped what I was doing and felt the vibrations and the sounds of what sounded to me like someone was coming up those stairs, and there was no one there. So I immediately felt there was a presence there, and I said to it, I'm sorry, I'm not here to disturb you. I'm literally here to just do this job, to take these shelves down, and I don't want any trouble. And when I did that, I kind of turned around and went back to the banging on the shelves, and I got kind of more chilled and I started kind of being more aware of things that seemed to be moving, shadows and things to be moving around. So at that point, I just put down the mallet, just dropped the last shelf that I had on top of the stack of shelves, and I bolted down the stairs, and missing every other stair. Like I literally took 4 steps and made it down the entire stairway. Headed and then I had to head across the main floor to the exit door. And as I did that, I was noticing there was shadows moving across that main floor between bookshelves. There was some standing bookshelves there. I didn't really stop to look. At that time, I wasn't really, I was very skeptical, and I wasn't really into paranormal, nor did I know much about it. I just felt it, and I got out. Went to the door, unlocked it from the inside, walked out, turned around and locked the door with the key, got back in my vehicle, and left. And never went back in. To this day, I never went back inside that building.
Did they ever ask you to go back, or what happened? Why didn't you finish the job?
I think they did. They said, "How far did you get?" And I said, "About as far as I got until I got scared and I had to leave." I think I shared with them a brief creepiness, and I said I did as much as I could,
Oh man.
and that was
Were
it.
were they surprised?
I don't think they. I don't think we went too much beyond that. It
Mhm.
Okay.
was. I did as much as I could, and I had to leave because it was creepy or something. It was the end of my shift,
Yeah.
and that it really wasn't the end of my shift. I had 2 more hours to go, but
Yeah, but you
Yeah.
weren't I wouldn't stay there with a bunch of
Yeah.
shadow people running around.
Well,
oh,
and do you feel like the thing that popped in my head was like maybe it's the librarian coming up to, I remember you. You were the kid that was always loud at the top of the stairs. You got to be quiet.
well, it could have been. I mean, the building has some ghost stories associated with it that I've read since then.
Mhm.
I didn't know much about this before then because as a child, you're introduced this is a library, so I never
Yeah.
thought much of anything.
Yeah.
But I've read some stories that the caretaker um, may have been present. A caretaker may have been present in the building and stayed in the building, or others. There's a very creepy cemetery right next door, like literally next door to this building. And I hadn't returned to that building. I'd driven by it many, many times. I hadn't returned to the building or the grounds. I haven't set foot on the property since then until yesterday.
Until, yeah.
And I was stopping to take some pictures and to get some information for the show for you guys for historical background.
Mhm.
And I just drove over. It was still gray, kind of rainy day, and I stopped to walk around, take a couple pictures of the outside, and a couple pictures of the cemetery, which was historically one of the first cemeteries in Greece.
Mhm.
And I felt strange then too. And when I was going to snap the pictures with my phone was malfunctioning, so that I every time I turn the camera app on and went to take a picture, it would turn off. I had to turn it back on, and it happened several times. I thought that was very strange at the
Yeah.
time. And when I sent the pictures to Jess to look at, I told her my camera was kind of messed up, so I was having a tough time, and I didn't put two and two together. But maybe there was some
Mm.
energy there that was messing with my electronics.
Yeah, they feed off of that stuff.
Yeah.
Like they mess with like electrical things are easy for energy to manipulate because it's energy.
Yeah.
So it would make sense. Um, I love that you didn't believe in anything at the time either. Like you weren't superstitious at all, and you're like, I'm just gonna go do this, and then like all of a sudden you start seeing these shadow people, and you're like, what the heck?
Yeah, yeah, and I swore if you would have asked me at the time if someone was walking on those stairs, I would have said absolutely there is.
Mhm.
Until I saw with my own eyes and still felt and heard the sounds that there was
Crazy.
nobody walking on those stairs except
Yeah.
for except for the energy that I was feeling, which I couldn't put my finger on, but my hair standing up on the back of my neck and me
Mhm.
getting cold was the first
I
time
can't
I've ever experienced anything like that.
I can't believe you were literally watching the stairs. Nobody's there, but like hearing and feeling somebody coming up, and you're like, I'm gonna go grab this mallet and like try to keep doing this bookshelf. Because to
I
me, at that time, I'd be like, nope, you're trying to mess with me. I'm out.
Yeah.
you
Yeah, for
if you could
sure.
if you could picture a guy that's 6'2",
Yeah,
Yeah.
who's a good sized guy who's just doing his work, talking to an empty building
yeah.
about, hey, I'm not here. I don't want any trouble. I'm not here to bother anybody.
Mhm.
I would never do that. I would never talk to an empty room like that. But I felt that was necessary at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that the unexplained or like the paranormal makes you do things you wouldn't normally do.
Yeah.
Because you're like freaked out. But yeah, Bill is like very tall. He's like not an intimidating presence because you're such a nice man, but like but if I didn't know you, like you are a presence. It's just like this big man being like, I am terrified. I'm gonna run out of this building. It was a little freaky in there.
Well, yeah, I mean, it like
No
how it doesn't
thanks.
matter how big you are or small you are. I mean, if you don't see
Nope.
something but you hear something coming at you, like that'll freak
Can't
me
fight
out.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
So,
there's
And I
what do you do?
right.
that was the experience that got me interested in kind of listening and following paranormal activities, and they piqued my interest at that point.
Yeah.
That
That's
was that
really
one
cool.
experience that did that for me.
Well, I also love about this story is that you threw like, your own sort of skepticism in as well for the listeners and stuff, and saying, it was thundering and lightning out there. So maybe it was something else, but I swear there were shadows that I saw that were like people, right? So, I mean, that's kind of how I approach things sometimes still too, even though I've had my own share of experiences. I'm like, oh, but it's the wind, it's so I can appreciate that. And that's kind of how I got interested in the supernaturals, having some experiences and like, all right, there might be something more to this than just a little bit of thunder or wind.
Well, I appreciate you guys listening and let me share this, because I really haven't shared it with anybody most of my life. So
Yeah.
Oh, we
it's all
appreciate you
Thank you.
sharing
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Thanks for coming
saying you're a
on.
fan of the show and coming on yeah, that's awesome. Love it.
Yeah, we appreciate you,
Yeah.
Bill. Thank
Thank
you.
you, Bill.
you're absolutely welcome.
So I do want to share something that, actually Bill made me think of, that I haven't thought of in years myself. When I was younger, I worked in several libraries actually. And there was one library in particular. It was an experience that I had. It was a page, basically, you put books away. That's basically what the job was. It was like kind of a summer high school kind of job. And we also did the reading programs and stuff like that, the fun thing with the kids and all the activities and stuff. But the library that I worked in happened to be my father's old elementary school. So it went from a school to a library. And they were short people in the adult section of the library, where I didn't normally put books away, but it was sort of this weird separate side of the public library. And so I was putting books away, and something we would do, especially in the children's section, we would mess around with each other all the time. Like we would put all our books away on the shelf, and then someone idiot would come by and put more books on the cart, and all of a sudden you're putting more books away, and you're like, I just did this. How are there more? Right? So, and this one
That's something I
girl,
would do.
yeah, so we'll call this girl Carolyn, but this one girl, Carolyn, just in case you're listening or something, I don't want to blame anything, but she was notorious for doing it, all right, all the time, especially picking on me. And so I thought, in the adult section, I don't know where all the stupid books are, to where they go. It's different. And so I'm putting all these things away, and I was finished with the cart. I had one book left, and I knew it was kind of around the corner. So I go around the corner, I come back, and it was like, at the time, I didn't realize how quickly it was done. It was like a couple seconds. But I was putting the book away, I come back. There's an entire row of like entire shelf on the cart full of books again. I was like, God damn it, you guys. And I put everything back away, and then I put the cart away. And then I went in to children's to kind of finish off what I was doing in there. And I told the head librarian there, I'm like, oh yeah, Carolyn got me good again. She put a whole load of books on the cart. And she's like, oh, Carolyn called in sick today. So to this day, I don't know who did it. Could have been just another person, another page. There was no one else working because we were short-staffed. But I had a whole load of books. I had to put it back away. So that's what you made me think of, Belle, when you were telling that story. I'm like, oh, the library started where the books just appeared. Could have been anything. It could have just been another person messing with me.
It was the head librarian.
Head librarian.
That was entirely creepy.
Yeah.
That's entirely creepy to think that could, that books can move themselves back onto your rack.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and when I really think hard on it, what made it like less believable that it was like a person, or something like that, or it was just because they were all in random sections. It wasn't like somewhat like normally when we were children, all of a sudden you got like, you know, all of the Bernstein Bears books are all of a sudden on your cart. They were from one section. That was easy to grab and throw on there and like disappear into the stack somewhere so that you didn't see it. But these were different random books. But not to ruin the terrifying experience that I had, because it wasn't really terrifying, but I mean, it could have been, like you said, Jess, the head librarian came by and dropped a stack of books off that just got returned or something and just didn't see me. So
Right.
but
I mean,
I didn't hear
maybe.
anything.
That's funny. I mean, it's a little spooky too, but I always feel like libraries are very full of energy because think of, all these people come there. Like you have a lot of transient people that come to a library for shelter. You have children, adults, people looking for information. They're, desperately seeking something before the internet, especially like,
Sure.
in the 90s when we were walking into a library, that was like where you got your info,
Yeah.
before everybody had a computer in their house. So yeah, I mean, walking through, I had an interesting library experience once, very short, where I was at the downtown Rochester library with my friend, and I was just getting interested in my mediumship abilities. And we had just had a friend pass away at the time. And I picked up a mediumship book and I was like, I'm going to read this. And then I was like, well, because I came from such an evangelical background, and this is like this,
Yeah.
it's very, I was taught that it was the stuff of the devil,
Right.
it's very evil, don't mess with this. But I was just like, it can't all be bad, because I've had a lot of good experiences, including with the friend who had just passed, which I'll tell maybe another time. But I was looking at the book, and it was a mediumship book by what is that famous medium? His name is John. Oh, I'll think of it after this, but he was a famous medium, and I was like, I'm gonna read this book, and then I was like, well, wait, I'm gonna say a little prayer and see if I should, right? Because I'm this young kid. I think it was like 19, and I was like, all right, like if I'm supposed to be doing this, if like I'm supposed to be like opening myself up to this, let me know. And then at that the very second, this man comes in and starts screaming, dead, 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 over and over and over again. Yeah. And I was like, I'm gonna close this book. I'm gonna put it back on the shelf because I'm not sure if that was a yes or a no, but I'm gonna stop. I don't know what what that was. And he was having some kind of a mental health issue at that point, right? So the librarian came over and was trying to help him out and like calm him down. And I'm watching this unfold, but while also having an existential crisis of who am I and what am I supposed to be doing with my life. So yeah, that was an interesting. I'll never forget it. That was my interesting library experience, where I was like, not yet, not now. This isn't when I'm going to be exploring this. And I wasn't ready at that point because I hadn't peeled all my layers off of what do I believe,
Right.
And at that point, but I think I felt like that was a very defining moment for me, and it was in a library because libraries hold energy.
See, Bill. See, you bring us all together with your library story.
So many library stories.
So many library stories.
And if any of our listeners have any library stories or any other stories, be like Bill and please share your stories with us. We would love to have you on our podcast. You don't have to tell us your last name or even your real first name.
Yeah.
Although this is Bill's real first name. Sorry, Bill, I'm throwing you out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's we really would really appreciate your stories. And Bill, thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you for being on the show, Bill. Thank you for being a fan.
It was my pleasure. I enjoy it, and I enjoy listening to you guys, and I'm looking forward to more terrifying stuff.
Yeah. Well, we'd love to have you back, and maybe you have some more tales for us later on, or tell your friends. And like Jess said, we want to have people on the show. And if for some reason you're afraid to come on the show, like if the show is just too terrifying, the hosts are just too terrifying, it's my face, I'm sorry. We will tell your tale, so you can share it, and one of us will read it on the show, and we'll spread the news, the terror that way, right? But we do want to hear your story. So thanks again for being here, Bill, for being our first guest and our Halloween episode. Really super excited to let this one out there, right?
Yeah, happy Halloween.